already. But today's session is about the difference, between a communication and a presentation. Okay, the core difference between communication and presentation. And we have had series of lectures and we have series of presentations and talks where people have given us tips about how do we influence our communication to get it better, to make it even more excellent, right? But what is the core difference? We are going to understand what is the difference between the speech, or how do we speak when we are presenting, and how do we speak when we are communicating. So that's what we are going to talk about today.
Okay, all right. And I guess, Coach, myself included, we sometimes think that both of these things are the same, right? So I think
Yes.
in this session, we're going to understand the difference between the two.
Absolutely, absolutely. So there's a very thin line between the both. Okay, I'll be honest with you. It's a very thin line, and a lot of people, except for people who are into linguistics and literature and language, they wouldn't know the difference. And I think that's fine. I mean, you are from a technical background. We all are. We come from different streams, so it's absolutely fine to not know the difference. There are still people functioning quite well, but I think it gives you an edge once you get to know that what should be taken care of when you're communicating and what should be taken care of when you're presenting. So yeah, that's a slight thin line. Yes.
Right. And I think, especially in the professional front, it's going to help you a lot.
Yes, certainly, certainly. For working professionals and for students, because there's a lot of presentation that goes in and there's a lot of input giving. And it's not just about the person who is giving it, it's also about the person who is receiving it. These are two different sectors altogether. So, and I think that is important to know. Yes.
Okay. All right, Coach. So I'm excited for this session. So I'm just
So am
going to
I.
remind everybody, if you have any questions for the coach or any questions regarding Alpha Board, just feel free to ask. And everybody just go follow Alpha Board right now, because we're going to come up with these amazing sessions on a regular basis. So these are going to help you a lot. All right,
True.
Coach. So let's just begin with the session.
Great. So let's get right on to it. So first thing first, as we know the title suggests, is the communication and the presentation. Now, what happens is that you and me right now are communicating. We both are having a conversation with each other, and this is communication. Presentation is part of communication. You see? Yes. Presentation is part of communication. It's a subdivision that comes under. Now, when I say presentation, it could be a picture, it could be it could be one of your meetings where you have the bar graphs and you are you're giving the statistics out to your entire team. It could be anything. It could be students giving their project presentation. It could be anything. But the language plays an extremely important role in both of them. When we are strictly talking about presentation, you have to understand that the body language, the psychology that goes in, it's quite different. Now you and me are having a very casual conversation. There's no pun intended, there's no lesson intended. Of course we are talking about something that's fruitful, but then it's very casual. Now, but when you are speaking about presentation, you have a goal and you have to receive it. Often people forget that. They think about sales pitch. They think about, okay, we are pitching a new idea, we are having a sales pitch, we are doing an analysis of last year's data. No, that's the headliner. That is the headliner of the meeting, not of your presentation. What are you trying to give is what is important in the presentation. Now, there are some things which I would like to talk about presentation. If you are somebody who is giving it, tell me, Ananya, what would you take care of? If you're giving a presentation, what are some things that you cannot miss?
I think being confident, that is something which you need to be.
Yes, yes, confidence.
And then making sure that I'm talking in a clear and concise manner, because if
Mm-hmm.
I'm just talking about everything here and there, it would not make sense.
Correct.
Then if I'm, say, presenting some stats about what we've done in the past month,
Mm-hmm.
I will make sure that I'm not getting into the technicality of it, because it
Right?
won't be that
Yes,
easy to understand.
true.
And I guess that's about it.
I think that's those are correct. Yes, absolutely right. All 3 points are right. I would like to. I'm very happy when you said what you said for the third point. That is, I wouldn't get into the technicalities of it. I will twist this point just a little bit. Okay. I often see presentations when people are depicting whatever is given. Let's say there is 100% sales that happened in the last month. People will be like, as you can see, the bar graph represents 100% sale from the last month. I can see it. I can already see it. You and me have the same information. You have to be very analytical when you are presenting. It is your point of view that is important in the presentation. It is about what is your perception and comparative, being very comparative. That is something which usually people skip. What they do, they just repeat the information from let's say a pictorial or a visible information to a verbal information. That is not the intention of presentation. The whole idea of it is giving a twist to it, making people think. And if you're a listener, let's say that you are a listener in a part of presentation, you have to be, of course, you have to be active listeners in every communication, but you have to be ultra active during presentation because you have to contribute it. You're part of that team. That contribution has to come from your end. So this is an extreme of importance. This is of extreme importance when it comes to presentation. Now, if I were to parallelly put this across with communication, let's say, okay, now you and me are having a conversation, let's say about a coffee or about our recent journeys, about anything at all, okay, about existential crisis, whatever it is, okay. Being not analytical, being not comparative is absolutely fine, but then being very aware of what you're speaking is very important. A lot of people speak and then they think, I would be midway talking something and then I'm like, oh, damn it, I was not going to say that. This is not how it was supposed to be. No, it comes with training. Let me tell you, a lot of people think that communication comes just like this. अगर आइडियाज हो, अगर बहुत कुछ कंटेंट है, कुछ लाइफ में हैपनिंग हुआ है, तो फिर बात तो हो ही जाएगा. It's not like that. It's absolutely not like that. You have to think a lot before you speak, which is applicable in presentation. You prepare it. I mean, you cannot go and just present. That doesn't happen. There's a lot of homework that has to be done in presentation. However, in communication, you need to be very conscious about what you're speaking. You would often see this in kids. They would be in mid sentence and they would stop and they were like, no, I meant it happened like this. No, but it was not like this. It was like that. Because they're still learning. They're still getting adapt to how to think. And, that's a process. But unfortunately, it's the same with a lot of adults too. And we have to avoid this. Yes, it comes with a lot of practice. I'll be honest with you all. It doesn't happen overnight. There's a lot of reading, there's a lot of thinking, there's a lot of practice that you have to do with yourself when it comes to talking. And once that is enhanced, all these other skills comes up very easily. Yes. So these are the main subjective differences between a presentation and a communication. Now tell me, Ananya, I would like to know from your end, what was one of the best or what was one of the worst presentation you have ever been to?
Okay, I think I'm taken back to school. I
Okay.
remember there being this presentation in the school auditorium, and it was so boring. The presenter, he kept on talking and he did not talk about the things which were shown on the screen. He was talking about random things. He was slow, and I swear I almost dozed off. So I still remember it. This question just came out of nowhere, and that presentation was in my mind. So that was something that I was taken back to.
No, certainly. Yeah, most of the presentations are deemed to be very boring, is what I feel. And we have been exposed to very mediocre presentations ever since our childhood, unfortunately. But let me give a very simple example. We all must have watched whenever Steve Jobs would be launching a new product. Okay, let's talk about that. Yes, that is not communication. That is not advertisement. That's a presentation. Please remember this, all of you. Okay, that is an excellent way of how to do a presentation. You have to understand that even though we have done our homework, all the content is ready, sub files, flashcards, सब आपके ready है, ठीक है? लेकिन if the audience reaction is not what you were expecting it to be, you have to be ready enough to change it there and then. That's the ball game of presentation. It has happened with me once. So I this was my first time teaching children, pre-primary kids, and they are very naughty, extremely naughty, and this and that. So I had thought that they would be very in a very fun-loving mode, and they would want to do all sorts of silly things. And I actually had prepared a list of games to have with them along with what I was teaching. I was teaching them how does the Earth look like, and what are the different spheres of Earth. Now, when I went and when I tried to be a little bit comical, it didn't work because my kids turned out to be extremely intelligent who did not enjoy comedy. Yes. So, whatever I had prepared for, this is a very simple example, but whatever I had prepared for, whatever I was going to present, had to be changed completely. So, for that, your knowledge depth has to be extremely, extremely good. You should know what you're going to talk about, which takes me to the next point, research. Now, this is applicable in both the places. You cannot talk about things which you do not know. Simple. That's the rule. Because we are living in a good or bad age where everything is constantly traveling. Let's say Ananya tells me tomorrow that, the presentations in schools were so boring. I am going to use it sometime in one of my lectures saying that, presentations in schools are usually boring. That's how it passes on. So, and nothing is original in this world. All the information is a reproduction, right? So we have to be very careful about what we are speaking. Research is one important thing. But when you're talking about presentation and not about communication, goal-oriented research is very important when it comes to presentation. Yes, your demographics and a lot of I don't know much about how the commerce field goes on because mine is completely humanities background. However, you have to take care of all the segments which are going to affect the topic you're presenting on. Let's say we are talking about the consumption of media by today's younger age, right? If we are talking that as a topic, so you have to understand in which demographics, which age group are we talking about, which area are we talking about, which social media are we talking about, what's the consumption rate, what has been the comparison since last 2 years, or whatever your year chart has been. So you have to understand all of these things. And if you are at the receiving end, let's say if you are a listener, right, you have to participate because see the presenter has prepared so much, and if nobody asks any questions, it's very discouraging.
Right.
Yes. So it is both ways. Yes, yes, Ananya. Do you have any follow-up questions up until now?
I think we had a question from the audience. How
Okay.
to plan a good presentation while communicating, if that
Oh,
makes sense.
how to plan a good presentation while
Good
communicating?
presentation while communicating.
I don't think so. You can plan it like that. I mean, I don't think it's that easy. I think if people, that's the thing, people think that presentation is so easy. They'll just prepare a PPT and like ये सब points हमने लिखे हैं, हम इसके बारे में बात करने वाले हैं. This is not how it is. You have to do a lot of research. Yes.
Right.
But you can imitate. So as a kid, I used to imitate a lot. I would imitate the friend I would be with, or I would imitate my teachers. So that really affected my communication. So thankfully, I was imitating the right people with right pronunciation and communication. So it affected me well. And you always have to pick for cues, okay? You have to understand that all the speakers whom you follow, or let's say that you have had previous meetings where somebody has presented very excellently, okay? You have to understand how did that happen. And you would also have people who have done terrible. So you should know what you have to avoid. So I think that depends on which group you are with, but your body language, your research, your intent, your content, everything, this is like the formal basic thing which has to matter in your presentation. Yes, I believe
Okay,
there was
coach.
some. Yes, 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 Ananya, go on.
I had I had a question of my own. I wanted to ask the TED Talks on YouTube. They're also a
Mm-hmm.
kind of presentation, right? So are they also
Yes.
content that we can watch and learn from?
Yes and no. I'll tell you both. Okay. Yes, they are. They. I think that TED Talk was the first preliminary basis where this whole idea of presentation, of how presentation can be good communication, it's the best example. TED Talk is the best example for that. But lately, there's just so many TED Talks. There's just so much of it, right? So I would rather have, I would rather, ask people to follow successful brands because they have excellent, excellent, excellent presentation. I might have, I might have my, my opinions, probably negative opinions about what the product is or whatever. But if we are taking, if we take brands like Apple, or if we take, for some reason, I can't think of any other brand right now. Yes, if we take Apple, or if we take, even Nike does an excellent job. Yes, Nike does an excellent job in their presentation. If somebody has had, exposure to their presentation or how they sell their products through the media presence, it's beautiful. And why I'm saying beautiful, it's well researched because there's so much of critiquing that they're going to be receiving. You have to be ready for that. And all of that has to be covered while you are already presenting. That is something which we have to learn. And if you follow Apple products, you will understand that whenever they have their launch, they compare it. They make you understand how it is different. They are establishing each of the pointers to do with their products. And I think that's a brilliant way of grabbing, of course, grabbing the customer attention, but also making you understand how much the company has changed over the time, you know? So I think that is an excellent example. TED Talks, yes, I was a big follower and fan of TED Talks, but then lately there's just so much content, Ananya. What do you follow?
Right. Right.
Yes,
And there's a different channel for different kind of tech talks
yes.
recently that have come up. Right.
Which reminds me, TED Ed. I think that is the, I might be wrong, but then they have this TED Ed. Oh, beautiful. How did I forget that? Excellent. Excellent way of presentation of information. Yes. Recently, I happened to come across a video they made about how the commode system came up in the entire world, and the topics which we all frown upon, and something which might make people uncomfortable. But the way they have presented, the amount of course there is illustrations and everything, but the voice and the vocabulary and the jokes, the pun intended, beautiful, excellent. So I would suggest people, instead of watching TED Talks, try to understand and analyze TED Ed Talks. Those are informational presentations. They're very good, very educational as well. Yes.
Okay, coach. Which brings me to my next question, as you were just telling us about the illustration and all that. So,
Yes.
um, what are the things that you think we should add in our presentation slides, which can
Okay.
make the presentation more interesting? Because I mean, you just told us that you have to be quick on
Hmm.
your feet. You have to be, you have to see how the audience is reacting. But when
Right.
it comes to the slide part, what are the
Hmm.
things that we can add in order to grab the attention of our audience?
So you're not going to like my answer because I was once told by one of my professors that why do you think you need a PPT or something to present? And the professor was very stern about it. They were like, how, try presenting without having any aid. That's where so you have to be very well equipped with your skills when you have to do that, because there's no supporting material. You're selling through your talk, right? Not selling, you're convincing or whatever. You are the major factor there. Okay. However, uh, I will now answer your question about PPTs and all of it. I think that you have to be very much educated about what are the recent trends going on. I often have students presenting with more than 20, 25, 6, 30 points in one PPT, and they're long, big sentences, and it's pathetic. They have written down what they wanted to speak. That's the problem.
Right.
People
I think
often
we've
write
all
down,
done it
yes,
in school because we can just then
certainly.
read it.
Read it. Yeah, you're not presenting, you're just reading it in front of the class. Yes. So I like it when my students, have only pictures and have the taglines, and they do the explaining part. There's just pictures, there's just graphics, there's just pie charts, whatever, they're informatives, and they are doing the explanation part. So that's when I understand that they are being perceptive, they are being analytical. That's the biggest cue for your audience too. You have to convince the audience. See, that's what I said, right? Your audience can already see whatever is there. You need not be there to present them. What is your role as a presenter? How are you contributing to this is what you have to think, right?
Right.
So that's, I think that's extremely important. Yes.
Okay, and we have a question from the audience. Do we need to explain the presentation in more details, or should it be short?
Depends on the audience and the topic, absolutely. So let's say that you are having a presentation now, Abhinav, technical evangelist. So I'm guessing that you're from the field of a technical background. This is just my guess. Correct me if I'm wrong. So if you are, then I believe you have to be very specific about what you're talking. And a lot of people use jargons. I have seen that. I myself have attended so many technical presentations. I'm completely numb and dumb when it comes to jargons. I do not understand. So you cannot do that when you're doing presentations. You cannot do that, take that risk, because even if the audience is interested, what if they're not understanding, right? So I won't say more in detail or in short. Presentation, your material should be short. You presenting your content should be in detail, explaining the whatever short material you have. That's how the relationship works between the aid and whatever you are speaking. So please try to understand that, Abhinav. I hope I've answered your question.
I think
Yes,
you have, and it was to the point, because I think the field that we come from is also a major factor in how
correct.
long the presentation should be. Because if I start
Yes,
talking about, say, social media marketing, and I start using terms which makes no sense to somebody who's not
true.
from that background, they might not understand it. So we even got
Absolutely.
a thanks for explaining. So I guess the answer
Yes,
was to the point.
yes.
And I guess that's about it. I don't have any follow up questions because, Coach, I understood everything you just said, and I know that after this, I'm just going to go to YouTube and type Steve Jobs
Oh,
presentation,
yes.
and that's it.
Apple product presentation.
But
Yes,
when you just told us about that, I had the image of Steve Jobs just coming onto the stage and everybody going yeah
yes,
because they're
yes.
so happy to just get
Correct.
that presentation started, because we
True.
as audience love a presentation which can make us go like, okay, what's next?
True. Absolutely. Which takes me to now I just remembered. So if you follow physicians, okay, so there are a lot of, I might be wrong here, so I'm not going to name drop anybody, but there are a lot of theories being presented these days, and the videos are uploaded. And one of these universities, did these series, and somebody from a humanities background to sit there and understand this very, very, very extremely difficult string theory. It was fantastic. It was a beautiful experience as an audience. I'll tell you why, okay? Because establishing that comfort, with the content is very important. Yes, establishing that with each and every audience. That's why even if you follow this speaker, Hassan Minhaj, he has this show called Patriot Act.
Right.
Yes,
It's on
amazing.
Netflix.
Yes, it is on Netflix. Yes, correct. Now, it is presentation. He is presenting information on different political, topics or whatever. It's very controversial, let me say. But the amount of energy, the graphics, the energy, the jargons, the way he has designed the entire thing, it is very inspiring. It sparks you up with something like, okay, so I could inculcate this. This is how I can make my content more interesting. And let me tell you, it is not the accent. A lot of people think that, it's just because he has that fancy accent. It's not that. It's absolutely not that. You see, even when you would see Shashi Tharoor talking about something very severe, okay, about let's say colonization, when he was presenting one of these lectures in a university, there was nothing at all. It was a plain lecture which went on for half an hour or 45 minutes about insulting our colonizers, and it went on and on and on. But not for a minute could you leave that link, because there was a constant questioning that was happening from his end. And that's what it's supposed to be. Whenever you're presenting, as I said before, it should be an analysis. For example, it should be an analysis. Now, the Apple made an ad, okay, about the AirTag. If you watched it, they have come up with an AirTag. So I would request all of you to watch this. This is my homework for everybody. So what happens is that they have come up with this product called AirTag, and the person in charge loses it in the sofa, and he goes on to search this. They have adapted this, or it's my belief that the inspiration is from Alice in Wonderland. Okay, so look at how they have done it parallelly. Now this is what happens. This is the thinking that you have to adapt. You have to analyze everything, whatever content you're getting. And this is very important when it comes to presentation. I know we have spoken quite at extent today more about presentation than in communication. But as I said earlier, that presentation is part of communication. So once you are starting to excel your communication, presentation will come very handy to you. So yeah, that's how it goes. Yes.
Okay,
So
and I guess with this, we also learned that knowing in detail about what you're presenting is extremely important as well, because I think I'm also guilty of it one time or another, that we just read through the surface and we think, "Yeah, acha, now we'll present. We know
correct,
everything." And
correct.
what if we get questions from the audience and then we're blank? So that will just
Yes,
kind of give it away. Right.
true,
So I
true.
guess learning in detail about the topic is also very crucial. That's another thing that I'm taking away from this, and
You have
I think
to.
I'm going to apply it to the next meeting that I'm going to have with my seniors. I'm going to be like, okay, I know how to present now, so let's get on.
Yeah, bring it on. Whatever questions you have, I'm ready with my content.
Right,
Yes,
right. And to everybody who's watching right now, too, if you have any questions, feel free to ask, because
yes,
you'll get your answers right here, right now. Because when you comment, you'll still get your answers, but the process will take a longer time. We
true.
have our coach with us right now, so again, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. How to freeze? I think we have a question related to interview, but guys, that was not the topic for today. If you have any questions which are not related to the topic, just feel free to DM us, and our team will definitely get back to you with the answers. But if you have any questions regarding communication and presentation, and anything which you want to know, then feel free to ask it right now. So
Yes,
we'll just give everybody a few seconds, and I think if we don't have any questions, then everybody can just go back to see the video on IGTV. And what's the
what's the
topic?
topic? Wow. I just,
I think people are joining in just now. So we
yes,
were talking about the difference between communication and presentation, and coach just told us so many ways through which we can make our presentation better and even our communication better. So if you've missed the video, don't worry, we're going to post it on IGTV and you can rewatch it. But I guess we don't have
yes.
any questions, so I think
So,
we can.
viewers, if you have any questions, so you can quickly drop it up, or else you can watch it again later. You can watch the entire video, as Ananya said earlier, and we could end the session here on a very good and very less number of questions, having understood that everybody was comprehending everything that was said.
Right.
Yes,
I think everybody understood everything. It was to the
lovely.
point, and the questions that we had towards the end, I think they were the questions that even me as an audience member would have asked. So I think we kind of covered it all. And
Perfect.
since there are no questions, I think, Coach, we can wrap today's session up.
Lovely, lovely. Perfect then. So, as I said earlier, everyone, you have to remember that your body language matters, your research matters, and of course, the pace that you're talking, it all comes under your body language, okay? So, be prepared. The first and the foremost thing, as I said, is that you have to be prepared. The research has to be very thorough, okay? That's something that comes up. So, just as you mix up the length of sentence, be sure to vary your gestures too. Oh, yes, yes. So that is, I think, one of our viewers saying
And
that, yes, I would like to know the hand movements. Uh, yes. The thing with hand movements is that if you overdo it, it becomes a distraction. That's the
Right.
problem. If you overdo it,
Right.
yes, right, yes, correct. It's a distraction, and you confuse yourself. I'll be honest with you. You end up confusing yourself about what you're talking. So if you're comfortable with it, it's fine. There are some people who are extremely comfortable with physical gestures, and that's brilliant. I think that's absolutely brilliant. Like for me, it's impossible to be still and to talk. I can't. I just can't. It's a habit for me. So being a teacher, I think all teachers are very physically expressive. So yes, but don't overdo it or don't force yourself to do it. If you're not comfortable, that's fine. It doesn't matter much. A lot of people used to say that it adds a lot of gravitas to your presentation. It doesn't. It's fine. It's absolutely fine. We have amazing speakers who hardly move, but their content is so powerful, and their voice, how they modulate how the speech goes, how the voice, the intonations and the modulations work. That works brilliantly. So I don't think so hand movement is a big problem. So please, everybody, watch Hassan Minhaj's Patriot Act. I think you would understand what I'm talking about. So I'm giving you cues to watch. Yes.
Okay, and the next time you join in, I think coach will start off by asking you this only, that did you do the homework?
Homework, yes.
Right. Because I think
Correct.
that's important, because you learn everything in theory, but if you don't actually see how that is applied in the practical world,
True.
it might not make sense.
True. That's
All
true.
right.
Yes.
Okay. So
So I
I
think we are
think,
good to.
yeah, and I'm
Yes.
just going to wrap this session up from my end. So, Coach, thank you so much for this amazing session. It was lovely to hear about the difference between communication and presentation, and how we sometimes think that both of them are the same. And
True.
to understand how to become a better communicator is something which is going to help everybody, no matter which background they are from, in their
Mm-mm.
professional life. So, again, Coach, thank you so much for telling us the ways through which we can make ourselves a better presenter. And I'm going to see you next time, and I'll do the homework and I'll get back to you.
Yes.
All right.
Thank you, Ananya. It was a lovely session, and I hope to see you soon. And yes, and I hope everybody does the homework too.
All right,
All
Coach.
right then.
So I'll see you around.
Bye bye. Have a good evening, everyone.
You too. Bye.